The fluorescent lights hummed above Imani Robinson's head as she pushed her cleaning cart down the marble hallway of Hayes Corporate Tower. It was 9 p.m. on a Friday, and most of the executives had already left for their weekend getaways and dinner parties. The silence of the empty building had become her companion over the past 3 years, broken only by the soft swish of her mop and the occasional ding of the elevator. She entered the executive suite on the 40th floor, her keys jingling softly as she unlocked the glass doors. The view from up here was breathtaking. The city spread out below like a carpet of stars, but Imani barely looked anymore. She had learned not to want things that weren't meant for her. She had learned to keep her head down, do her work, and go home to her daughter. As she began emptying the trash bins, voices echoed from the conference room. Laughter. High-pitched and sharp. Imani recognized it immediately. Vanessa Sterling Hayes, the CEO's wife, was here with her usual group of friends. They came sometimes on Fridays, drinking wine and planning their charity galas and shopping trips. Imani tried to work quietly, hoping to finish this floor without being noticed. But luck was not on her side tonight. "Oh, there she is," Vanessa's voice rang out, dripping with false sweetness. Perfect timing. Imani looked up to see Vanessa gliding toward her in a white designer dress that probably cost more than Imani made in 6 months. Her blonde hair was styled in perfect waves, and diamonds glittered at her throat and ears. 3 other women followed behind her, all dressed just as expensively, all wearing the same smug expressions. "Good evening, Mrs. Hayes," Imani said quietly, stepping back with her cleaning supplies. "I have something for you," Vanessa said, pulling a cream-colored envelope from her purse. She held it out with 2 fingers as if even touching it was beneath her. "Trevor and I are renewing our vows next month. It's going to be the event of the season. 500 guests, full orchestra, celebrity chef. The works." Imani stared at the envelope, confused. Why would the CEO's wife be giving her an invitation? "Take it," Vanessa insisted, pushing it closer. "I believe everyone should feel included. Even the cleaning staff." One of her friends giggled behind her hand. Another whispered something that made them all smile. Imani's stomach twisted, but she kept her face calm. She had learned this skill too, the ability to hide her feelings when people tried to hurt her. She reached out and took the envelope. "Thank you, Mrs. Hayes," she said softly. "You're welcome," Vanessa replied, her eyes glittering with something cruel. "I do hope you'll come. It would mean so much to see everyone there." She turned to her friends and lowered her voice, but not enough that Imani couldn't hear. "Can you imagine? I'm dying to see if she actually shows up. What would she even wear?" The women erupted into laughter as they walked away, their heels clicking against the marble floor. Imani stood there, holding the invitation, her hands trembling slightly. She wanted to throw it away. She wanted to tear it into pieces. But instead, she carefully tucked it into her cart and went back to cleaning. As she mopped the floor where Vanessa and her friends had been standing, Imani felt the familiar ache in her chest. This wasn't the life she had imagined for herself. 3 years ago, she had owned her own business. She had been respected, successful, happy. She had planned weddings and corporate events for some of the wealthiest people in the city. She had worn beautiful clothes and driven a nice car and lived in a house with a garden. Then her husband died. A heart attack at 38, sudden and devastating. And when Imani went through his papers afterward, she discovered debts she never knew existed. Bad investments. Loans he had taken out without telling her. Within 6 months she lost everything. The business, the house, the car. Everything except Destiny, her 15-year-old daughter. She took the first job she could find that offered health insurance and steady pay. Cleaning offices at night meant she could be home when Destiny got back from school. It meant she could help with homework and make dinner and pretend that everything was okay. It meant surviving. But moments like this reminded her of how far she had fallen. Imani finished the executive suite and moved to the next floor. She worked mechanically, her mind elsewhere. The invitation sat in her cart like a weight. She knew exactly what it was. A joke. A way for Vanessa and her friends to feel superior. They wanted her to show up so they could laugh at her, the cleaning lady who thought she belonged among them. By the time Imani finished her shift at midnight, her back ached and her feet throbbed. She changed out of her uniform in the staff locker room and pulled on her jeans and old sweater. In the mirror, she barely recognized herself anymore. At 37, she was still beautiful, her brown skin smooth, her dark eyes bright. But she looked tired. Worn down by life. She took the bus home, the invitation tucked in her bag. The city looked different at this hour, quieter and somehow sadder. Imani pressed her forehead against the cool window and closed her eyes. When she finally unlocked the door to their small apartment, she found Destiny still awake, curled up on the couch with a textbook. Mom, Destiny said, looking up with concern. You're late. The executive floor took longer tonight, Imani replied, dropping her bag by the door. Why are you still up? You have school tomorrow? I wanted to wait for you. Destiny closed her book and studied her mother's face. What's wrong? Imani hesitated, then pulled out the invitation and handed it to her daughter. Destiny opened it, her eyes widening as she read the elegant script. The CEO's wife invited you to her vow renewal? Destiny asked, confused. Mom, that's amazing. No, baby, Imani said gently, sitting down beside her. It's not amazing. It's cruel. She gave it to me as a joke. Her and her friends, they think it's funny. They want to see if the cleaning lady will actually show up. Destiny's face hardened. At 15, she was already wise beyond her years. Life had forced her to grow up fast. Are you going to go? She asked. Of course not, Imani replied. I'm not going to give them the satisfaction. But what if you did? Destiny said slowly. What if you showed up and proved you're just as good as any of them? Better, even. Imani shook her head. Destiny, I can't. I don't have anything to wear to something like that. I don't have money for a dress or shoes or any of it. And even if I did, why would I want to spend an evening with people who look down on me? Because you deserve to, Destiny said fiercely. Mom, I see how hard you work. I see how you sacrifice everything for me. You're the strongest, most amazing person I know. And those women, they don't know anything about you. They don't know who you really are. Tears pricked at Imani's eyes. She pulled her daughter into a hug. I love you, she whispered. But some battles aren't worth fighting. Maybe, Destiny said quietly. Or maybe some battles are exactly the ones we need to fight. That night, Imani lay in bed, unable to sleep. She stared at the ceiling, thinking about the invitation, about Vanessa's cruel smile, about the life she used to have. She thought about Destiny's words, about dignity and worth and proving something. But to whom? And why? She didn't need to prove anything to Vanessa Sterling Hayes or her shallow friends. She knew her own value. She knew she was more than a cleaning lady. She was a mother, a survivor, a woman who had endured loss and kept going. That was worth more than any fancy party. Still, a small part of her wondered what it would feel like to walk into that room with her head held high. To show them that she was not invisible. That she mattered. Imani turned over and closed her eyes. Tomorrow was Saturday. She would spend the day with Destiny, maybe go to the library, make dinner together. Normal things. Good things. She would forget about the invitation and the cruelty and the reminder of everything she had lost. But deep down she knew she wouldn't forget. The invitation sat on her dresser, glowing in the darkness like a challenge she wasn't sure she was brave enough to accept. Can you imagine being in Imani's shoes? Working hard every single day, invisible to those around you, only to be mocked when someone finally notices? Would you show up to that party? Drop a comment below and let me know what you think Imani should do. And if you're loving this story so far, hit that subscribe button because you won't believe what happens next. Saturday morning arrived with pale sunlight streaming through the thin curtains of their apartment. Imani woke to the smell of coffee, which meant Destiny was already up. She dragged herself out of bed, her body still sore from the night shift, and found her daughter in the tiny kitchen, scrambling eggs. You didn't have to do that, Imani said, touched by the gesture. I wanted to, Destiny replied, sliding a plate across the small table. Besides, you always take care of me. Let me take care of you sometimes. They ate breakfast together in comfortable silence, the invitation sitting between them like an uninvited guest. Finally, Destiny spoke. Tell me about the old days, Mom. When you had your business. Imani looked up, surprised. Why do you want to hear about that? Because I barely remember it, Destiny admitted. I was only 12 when Dad died. And you never talk about it anymore. Imani set down her fork, memories flooding back. It was called Timeless Events. I started it from nothing, just me and a dream and a lot of determination. Your father supported me even when people said I was crazy to start a business. He believed in me. What kind of events did you plan? Destiny asked, leaning forward. Weddings mostly. But also corporate galas, anniversary parties, retirement celebrations. I loved it. Every event was like painting a picture, creating something beautiful and meaningful for people on their most important days. Imani's eyes grew distant. I was good at it too. Really good. People recommended me to their friends. I had a waiting list 6 months long. We were doing so well. What happened? Destiny asked softly. I know Dad died. But how did you lose everything? Imani had protected her daughter from the worst of it, but maybe it was time for the truth. Your father made some bad investments without telling me. He thought he was securing our future, but instead he put us in debt. Deep debt. When he died, suddenly I was responsible for loans I didn't even know existed. The business couldn't cover them. I had to sell everything, including our house, just to pay what we owed. Even then, it wasn't enough. That's not fair, Destiny said, her voice breaking. No, Imani agreed. It wasn't fair. But it was reality. I had to choose between keeping the business or keeping us afloat. You needed food, clothes, a roof over your head. You needed me. So I let the business go. I took the cleaning job because it was stable and had benefits. And we survived. But you gave up everything you loved, Destiny pointed out. I gave up a business, Imani corrected gently. But I didn't give up everything I loved. I still have you. That's what matters. Destiny reached across the table and squeezed her mother's hand. You're going to have it all again someday, Mom? I believe that. Imani smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She had stopped believing in someday. Someday was a luxury for people who had time and money and opportunity. She had none of those things. After breakfast, they went to the library as planned. Destiny needed books for a school project, and Imani just wanted to get out of the apartment, away from the invitation that seemed to mock her from the dresser. While Destiny researched in the reference section, Imani wandered through the aisles, running her fingers along the spines of books. She found herself in the business section, looking at titles about entrepreneurship and event planning. She pulled one out, a glossy book about starting over after failure. She read a few pages, standing there in the quiet library, and felt a pang in her chest. This used to be her world. Strategy, creativity, building something from nothing. She missed it more than she had allowed herself to admit. Mom? Imani looked up to find Destiny standing there with an older woman beside her. The woman was maybe 60, elegant in a simple red sweater and slacks, with silver hair cut short. This is Mrs. Patterson, Destiny said. She says she knows you. Recognition hit Imani like a wave. Mrs. Patterson. Of course. How are you? Imani Robinson, Mrs. Patterson said warmly, her face lighting up. I thought that was you. I've been hoping to run into you for years. How have you been? Imani's mind raced. Mrs. Patterson's daughter, Rebecca, had gotten married 5 years ago. Imani had planned the entire wedding, a beautiful garden ceremony with 200 guests. It had been one of her favorite events. I've been well, Imani said carefully. And you? Good, good. Rebecca has 2 children now, can you believe it? She still talks about her wedding. She says it was the most perfect day of her life, and that was all thanks to you. Mrs. Patterson paused, studying Imani's face. Are you still planning events? Rebecca has a friend getting married next year, and she specifically asked if I could find you. The question hung in the air. Imani felt Destiny's eyes on her. I'm not in that business anymore, Imani said quietly. Life took me in a different direction. Mrs. Patterson's expression shifted to sympathy. I'm sorry to hear that. You had such a gift. If you ever decide to get back into it, please let me know. The world needs more people who genuinely care about making moments special. They chatted for a few more minutes before Mrs. Patterson excused herself. As soon as she was gone, Destiny turned to her mother. See, she said urgently. People remember you. People value what you did. You could do it again. With what money? Imani asked, more sharply than she intended. Starting a business takes capital, Destiny. It takes time and resources and connections. I have none of those things anymore. But you have talent, Destiny insisted. You have experience. That has to count for something. Imani softened. It does, baby. But sometimes talent and experience aren't enough. Sometimes you need luck too. And I used up all my luck a long time ago. They finished at the library and walked home in silence. Imani could feel her daughter's frustration, but she didn't know how to make her understand. Dreams were for people who could afford them. Imani's job was to survive, to provide, to keep them safe. That was enough. It had to be. That evening after dinner, Destiny disappeared into her room for a long time. Imani assumed she was doing homework or texting with friends. She was half asleep on the couch, exhausted from the week, when Destiny emerged with her laptop. Mom, I need to show you something, she said, sitting down beside her. On the screen was a social media page for timeless events. The business Imani had closed 3 years ago. But instead of being defunct, the page was active. Someone was running it, posting pictures and testimonials from old clients. What is this? Imani asked, confused. I kept it alive, Destiny admitted. After you closed the business, I couldn't stand the thought of it just disappearing. So I maintained the page. I posted old photos and memories from clients who gave permission. I wanted people to remember what you created. Imani stared at the screen, emotions warring inside her. Destiny, why would you do this? Because you're my mom and you're amazing and I didn't want the world to forget that, Destiny said simply. Look at the comments. Look at how many people still remember you. Imani scrolled through the page. There were dozens of comments. Former clients thanking her for making their days special. People asking if she was still in business. Friends from the industry saying they missed her. I can't go back to this, Imani whispered. You don't understand. I failed. I lost everything. You didn't fail, Destiny said fiercely. Dad failed you by hiding his debts. Life failed you by taking him away. But you didn't fail. You did what you had to do to survive. That's not failure. That's strength. Imani felt tears sliding down her cheeks. She pulled her daughter close, holding her tight. When did you get so wise? She asked. I had a good teacher, Destiny replied. They sat there together, looking at the page, at the memories of a life that felt both distant and heartbreakingly close. Imani thought about Mrs. Patterson's words, about the invitation still sitting on her dresser, about the woman she used to be and the woman she had become. Maybe Destiny was right. Maybe some battles were worth fighting. Not for revenge or pride, but for something more important. For herself. For the reminder that she was more than her circumstances. That she had value beyond the floors she mopped and the trash she emptied. Okay, Imani said suddenly, making a decision. I'm not saying I'm going to that party. But I'm also not saying I won't. Let me think about it. Destiny's face broke into a huge smile. Really? Really? Imani confirmed. But if I do go, I'm going on my terms. With dignity. Not to prove anything to them, but to prove something to myself. That's all I wanted to hear, Destiny said, hugging her mother again. That night, Imani lay in bed thinking about possibilities. She thought about the business she had built and lost. She thought about the woman she used to be, confident and creative and full of hope. She thought about the invitation and what it would mean to accept it. And for the first time in 3 years, she thought about the future not as something to survive, but as something to create. Sunday afternoon, while Imani was at the grocery store, Destiny pulled out her phone and made a call she had been thinking about for weeks. Gabrielle's boutique, this is Gabrielle speaking. Ms. Laurent? Destiny said nervously. This is Destiny Robinson. Imani Robinson's daughter. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Destiny? Oh my goodness. How are you, sweetheart? How's your mom? Gabrielle Laurent had been one of Imani's closest friends during her event planning days. They had worked together on dozens of events, with Gabrielle providing custom clothing and styling for bridal parties and special occasions. When Imani's business collapsed, she had been too ashamed to reach out to her old friends, to admit how far she had fallen. She's okay, Destiny said carefully. But I need to talk to you about something. Can you keep a secret? Of course, Gabrielle replied, curiosity evident in her voice. Destiny explained everything. The cleaning job, the invitation from Vanessa Hayes, the cruel joke, and her mother's broken spirit. She told Gabrielle about the conversation they had, about the old social media page, about how Imani deserved one night to remember who she really was. I need your help, Destiny finished. I don't have much money. I've been saving my babysitting money, and I have about $300. I know that's not enough for what mom needs, but maybe you could help me figure something out. Gabrielle was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. $300? She repeated. Baby, you're not spending a dime. Your mother is one of the best people I've ever known. She helped me when I was starting my boutique, sent clients my way, believed in me when others didn't. The fact that she's been struggling for 3 years and never called me breaks my heart. We're going to fix this. When is this party? 4 weeks from yesterday, Destiny said, hope blooming in her chest. Then we have time, Gabrielle said decisively. But we need to do this carefully. Your mom is proud. If she thinks this is charity, she'll refuse. We need to make her believe she deserves this. Because she does. They spent the next hour planning. Gabrielle would pull together a dress, shoes, and accessories. She had connections with hair and makeup artists who owed her favors. Destiny would work on convincing her mother to actually attend the party. The hardest part would be doing all of this without making Imani feel like a charity case. She's been hurt so much, Destiny explained. She doesn't let people help her anymore. She thinks accepting help means she's weak. Then we'll show her that accepting help is actually brave, Gabrielle said. Can you get her to come to my boutique? Maybe tell her you want to look at dresses for your school dance. We have a spring formal coming up, Destiny confirmed. I can definitely use that. Perfect. Next Saturday at 2. And Destiny? Thank you for calling me. Your mother is lucky to have you. After they hung up, Destiny felt lighter than she had in weeks. Her mother had spent 3 years taking care of her, sacrificing everything. Now it was Destiny's turn to take care of her mother. The next few days passed slowly. Destiny worked on her mother subtly, mentioning the spring formal, talking about how she wanted to look nice, suggesting they go look at dresses. Imani was hesitant at first, worried about the cost, but Destiny promised they would just look, not buy. Meanwhile, Gabrielle was busy at her boutique. She had called 2 other women who had been in Imani's circle, and they were all eager to help. There was Simone, a makeup artist whose first big break came from working events Imani planned. And Nicole, a hairstylist who had always admired Imani's grace and kindness. Why didn't any of us reach out to her? Simone asked when they met at Gabrielle's boutique to plan. We knew her business closed. We should have checked on her. We assumed she was okay, Nicole said quietly. Or maybe we were too wrapped up in our own lives. But we can make it right now. Gabrielle pulled out several dresses from her collection. One caught her eye immediately. A floor-length gown in deep emerald green, elegant without being flashy, sophisticated without being stuffy. It would be perfect on Imani's skin tone. This one, she said, holding it up. This is the one. Saturday arrived and Destiny practically dragged her mother to the boutique. Imani was nervous, uncomfortable with spending money they didn't have, but she wanted to make her daughter happy. When they walked through the door, Gabrielle looked up from behind the counter, and her face lit up with genuine joy. Imani, she breathed, coming around to embrace her old friend. It's been too long. Imani stiffened in surprise, then slowly relaxed into the hug. Gabrielle. I didn't know this was your boutique. You didn't know? Gabrielle pulled back, giving Destiny a subtle wink. Well, what a happy coincidence. Come in, come in. Destiny said you're looking for a dress for her spring formal? Just looking, Imani said quickly. We're on a tight budget. Of course, Gabrielle agreed smoothly. But while you're here, would you mind giving me your opinion on something? I have a dress I'm considering for my window display, but I need to see it on someone to know if it works. You're exactly the right size. Would you try it on for me? As a favor? Imani hesitated, but Gabrielle was already guiding her toward the fitting room, the emerald dress in her arms. Just try it, Gabrielle insisted. I really need your eye for this. You always had the best taste. In the fitting room, Imani slipped into the dress. It fit perfectly, hugging her curves in all the right places, the color making her skin glow. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked like the old Imani. The confident, successful, beautiful Imani. She stepped out of the fitting room and both Gabrielle and Destiny gasped. Mom, Destiny whispered, tears in her eyes. You look like a queen. It's beautiful, Imani admitted, running her hands over the soft fabric. But Gabrielle, this is too expensive. I can't help you with this dress. I don't have that kind of budget anymore. Gabrielle and Destiny exchanged glances. Mom, Destiny said carefully. Ms. Laurent knows about the invitation. I told her. Imani's face went pale. Destiny, you had no right to. I had every right, Destiny interrupted gently. You're my mom and I love you and I couldn't stand watching you diminish yourself anymore. Ms. Laurent wants to help. We all do. I can't accept charity, Imani said, her voice breaking. I won't. It's not charity, Gabrielle said firmly. Imani, you helped me build my business. You sent me clients, you promoted my work, you believed in me. You never asked for anything in return. Let me pay that forward now. Let me give you this gift. Not because you need it, but because you deserve it. I don't deserve anything, Imani whispered, tears streaming down her face. I failed. I lost everything. You didn't fail, Gabrielle said, taking her friend's hands. You survived. You endured the unthinkable and you kept going. You raised an incredible daughter. You maintained your dignity through circumstances that would have destroyed most people. If that's not deserving, I don't know what is. Imani looked at her daughter, at her old friend, at the dress that made her feel like herself again. She thought about the invitation, about Vanessa's cruel smile, about the choice in front of her. If I accept this, she said slowly, I'm not doing it for revenge. I'm not doing it to prove anything to those women. Then why? Destiny asked. For me, Imani said quietly. To remind myself that I'm still here. That I still matter. That I'm more than what happened to me. Then accept it, Gabrielle urged. Accept it with joy and gratitude. There's no shame in letting people who love you help you. Imani nodded, fresh tears falling. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Destiny threw her arms around her mother, and Gabrielle joined the embrace. In that small boutique, surrounded by beautiful clothes and genuine love, Imani felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years. Oh. Trevor Hayes stood at the window of his office, looking out at the city below. At 42 he had everything a man could want. Success, wealth, respect. He had built Hayes Corporation from a mid-level company into an industry leader. He was admired, feared, influential. So why did he feel so empty? His marriage to Vanessa had been a mistake, he could see that now. They had married young, both ambitious, both hungry for the life they thought they deserved. Vanessa wanted the status that came with being a CEO's wife. Trevor wanted someone beautiful on his arm at corporate events. It had seemed like a good partnership at the time. But partnerships needed more than ambition to survive. They needed warmth, kindness, genuine connection. All the things that had slowly drained out of their relationship over the years. Trevor turned from the window as his assistant, Patricia, entered with his afternoon coffee. "Thank you, Patricia," he said, taking the cup. "Mr. Hayes, I wanted to remind you that your wife's vow renewal is in 3 weeks. She asked me to confirm that you've reviewed the guest list." Trevor nodded absently. The vow renewal had been Vanessa's idea, a way to show off their marriage to their social circle. He had agreed because it seemed easier than arguing. "Has everyone responded?" he asked. "Almost everyone," Patricia confirmed. Though there was one unusual addition to the list. "A Ms. Imani Robinson? I don't have her in our social database." Trevor frowned. "I don't recognize that name. Check with Vanessa's secretary." Patricia nodded and left. Trevor sat at his desk, his mind already moving to other matters. He had a board meeting in an hour and contracts to review. The party was Vanessa's domain. He just had to show up and smile. But later that evening, as he was leaving the office, he overheard voices in the executive lounge. Vanessa's voice, specifically, followed by laughter from her friends. "I can't wait to see if she actually comes," Vanessa was saying. "Can you imagine? The cleaning woman at my vow renewal. It's going to be hilarious." "You're terrible," one of her friends replied, though she was laughing too. "What if she shows up in her uniform?" "Even better," Vanessa said. "I'll make sure the photographer gets pictures. It'll be the talk of the town." Trevor paused outside the door, a sick feeling growing in his stomach. The cleaning woman? He pushed the door open. "Vanessa," he said, his voice cool. "Can I speak with you?" His wife looked up, surprised but not concerned. "Of course, darling. Ladies, I'll catch up with you later." Her friends filed out, still giggling. Trevor waited until they were alone before speaking. "What was that about?" he asked. "What was what about?" Vanessa replied innocently, sipping her wine. "You invited our cleaning staff to the vow renewal?" "As a joke." Vanessa shrugged. "It's harmless fun, Trevor. Don't be so serious. The woman probably won't even come." "And if she does?" Trevor pressed. "You're planning to humiliate her? To mock her in front of 500 people?" "Oh, please," Vanessa said, rolling her eyes. "Don't pretend to care about the help. You barely notice them. None of us do. That's the point. She's invisible. This is just giving her a moment in the spotlight." "A moment of humiliation," Trevor corrected. "Vanessa, this is cruel. Even for you." His wife's eyes narrowed. "Even for me? What's that supposed to mean?" Trevor sighed, suddenly tired. "You used to be kinder. Or maybe I just didn't see who you really were. Either way, this stops now. You're going to contact this woman and apologize." "I'm going to do no such thing," Vanessa said, standing up. "It's my party, Trevor. I'll invite whoever I want. And if you have a problem with that, maybe you should reconsider whether you want to be there at all." She swept out of the room, leaving Trevor standing there alone. He pulled out his phone and called Patricia. "I need you to pull the personnel file for Imani Robinson," he said. "The woman who cleans the executive floors. I want to know everything about her." The next morning, Patricia brought him the file. Trevor read through it carefully. Imani Robinson, age 37. Employed with Hayes Corporation for 3 years. Excellent performance reviews. Never missed a day. Never complained. Single mother with 1 dependent daughter. There was a note from her hiring interview. Previously owned event planning business, Timeless Events. Business closed due to financial difficulties. Trevor stared at that line. An event planner turned cleaning woman. How far must she have fallen? And how much strength must it have taken to pick herself up and keep going? He found himself thinking about Imani throughout the day. He realized he had probably seen her dozens of times over the past 3 years and never really looked at her. She was just part of the background like the furniture or the artwork. When had he become the kind of person who treated other human beings as invisible? That evening, Trevor stayed late at the office. He wanted to see Imani, to put a face to the file, to understand who this woman was that his wife found so easy to mock. Around 9, he heard the soft sound of a cleaning cart in the hallway. He stepped out of his office to see a woman in a navy uniform pushing the cart toward the executive suite. She looked up as he approached, and their eyes met. Trevor felt something shift in his chest. Imani Robinson was beautiful, not in the polished, artificial way of the women in his social circle, but in a natural, genuine way. Her dark eyes were intelligent and kind, and despite the uniform in the late hour, she carried herself with dignity. "Good evening," she said quietly, already moving to push her cart past him. "I'm sorry to disturb you. I can come back later if you're still working." "No, please," Trevor said quickly. "Don't let me stop you. I was just leaving." But he didn't leave. He watched as she began her work, methodical and thorough. She moved with an efficiency that spoke of experience, but there was no joy in it. This was just a job, a means to an end. "Have you worked here long?" Trevor asked, though he already knew the answer. 3 years, Imani replied, not looking up from her work. "Do you like it?" he asked. She paused, then meeting his eyes again. "It pays the bills. It's honest work. I'm grateful to have it." There was no bitterness in her voice, no self-pity. Just quiet acceptance of her reality. "I'm Trevor Hayes," he said, extending his hand. "I own the company." "I know who you are, Mr. Hayes," Imani replied, shaking his hand briefly before returning to her cart. "Your wife invited me to your vow renewal ceremony." Trevor felt his face flush with shame. "I heard about that. I want to apologize. That invitation was inappropriate and unkind." Imani looked at him for a long moment. "It's okay. I understand what it was. I'm not offended." "You should be," Trevor said honestly. "I would be." A small smile touched Imani's lips. "Maybe I've learned to pick my battles. Getting angry at people who don't see me as human would take up all my energy. I prefer to save it for my daughter." Trevor was struck by her grace. Here was a woman his wife had treated as a joke, and she was responding with dignity and understanding. It made Vanessa's cruelty seem even worse by comparison. "For what it's worth," he said, "I think you're very human. And very strong. Not everyone could do what you do." "Thank you," Imani said softly. "But strength is just what happens when you don't have any other choice." She finished her work in his office and moved on. Trevor stood there for a long time after she left, thinking about their conversation, about the file in his office, about the massive gap between the life he lived and the life she endured. And he thought about his wife, planning to humiliate this woman for entertainment. The contrast between Vanessa's cruelty and Imani's grace couldn't be clearer. Trevor made a decision in that moment. He couldn't control whether Imani attended the vow renewal, but he could make sure that if she did, she would be treated with respect. And he could start looking for ways to right the wrong his wife had committed. The building storm was coming. Trevor could feel it. But maybe this time, the storm would bring change instead of destruction. The next 2 weeks passed in a whirlwind of activity. Gabrielle's boutique became headquarters for what the women were calling Operation Dignity. It wasn't just about a dress anymore. It was about restoring Imani's sense of self-worth, about reminding her that she was valuable and visible and worthy of respect. Simone came by the boutique on Wednesday evening to meet Imani properly. She brought her entire collection of makeup with her, determined to find the perfect look. "Okay," Simone said, studying Imani's face with professional intensity. "You have beautiful bone structure. Natural classic beauty. We're not going to cover that up with heavy makeup. We're going to enhance what's already there." "I don't usually wear much makeup," Imani admitted. "I never saw the point when I'm just cleaning offices." "Well, you're not cleaning offices that night," Simone replied. "You're making an entrance. And trust me, with your natural beauty, we just need a little enhancement to make you absolutely stunning." She pulled out brushes and palettes, showing Imani different options. Browns and golds for the eyes to make them pop. A deep berry lip to complement the emerald dress. Subtle contouring to highlight her already perfect cheekbones. "This isn't about transforming you into someone else," Simone explained as she worked. "It's about revealing the woman you already are. The woman who got buried under pain and survival. She's still in there, Imani. We're just bringing her back to the surface." Nicole arrived next, her arms full of hair tools and products. She walked around Imani, studying her natural curls. "Your hair is gorgeous," she declared. But when's the last time you had it professionally done? 3 years, Imani admitted sheepishly. I've been cutting it myself. Nicole gasped dramatically. Girl, no. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you a proper cut and treatment next week. Then on the day of the party, we'll style it in a way that's elegant but still natural. Your curls are your crown. Let's make sure everyone sees that. As the women worked and planned, Destiny sat in the corner, watching her mother slowly come back to life. She saw the way Imani's eyes lit up when they talked about different styles. She saw her mother smile, really smile for the first time in months. Maybe years. You're going to be the most beautiful woman there, Destiny said when the others had left for the evening. That's not the point, Imani corrected gently. The point isn't to compete with anyone. The point is to remember who I am. And who are you? Destiny asked. Imani thought about the question. I'm a woman who's been through hell and survived. I'm a mother who would do anything for her daughter. I'm someone who used to create beauty for others and lost sight of the beauty in herself. I'm still figuring out who I am now. But I know I'm more than what happened to me. You're so much more, Destiny agreed, hugging her mother. The following Saturday, Nicole kept her promise about the haircut. She worked for 2 hours, carefully shaping Imani's curls, adding subtle layers that gave them movement and life. She did a deep conditioning treatment that made Imani's hair shine. When Nicole spun the chair around to face the mirror, Imani gasped. Her hair framed her face beautifully, professional and polished but still authentically her. Nicole, this is amazing, she breathed. This is just a preview, Nicole replied with a grin. Wait until you see what I do on the actual day. But while the physical preparations were moving forward, Imani was struggling internally. She kept second-guessing the decision to attend the party. What if Vanessa was right? What if she didn't belong? What if going only proved that she was foolish to think she could fit back into that world? Gabrielle sensed her doubts during a fitting appointment. Talk to me, she said as she adjusted the hem of the dress. What's going on in your head? I'm scared, Imani admitted. What if this is a mistake? What if I show up and everyone just stares at me? What if Vanessa stands up and announces to everyone that I'm the cleaning lady and they all laugh? Then you'll leave with your head held high, Gabrielle said firmly. But Imani, I don't think that's going to happen. Yes, Vanessa invited you as a joke. But she doesn't control how you show up or how people perceive you. You control that. I've been invisible for 3 years, Imani said quietly. What if I've forgotten how to be seen? You haven't forgotten, Gabrielle assured her. It's like riding a bike. Your body remembers even when your mind doubts. You used to walk into rooms and command attention without even trying. That confidence is still inside you. We're just dusting it off. What if it's not? Imani asked, her voice breaking. What if that woman is gone? What if 3 years of scrubbing floors killed her? Gabrielle took Imani's hands. Look at me. That woman isn't gone. She's been sleeping, conserving her strength, waiting for the right moment to emerge. This is that moment. You're not going to that party for Vanessa. You're not going to prove anything to anyone else. You're going for you. To remind yourself that you're still standing. That you're still valuable. That you're still here. Imani nodded, tears streaming down her face. I'm going for me, she repeated. That's right, Gabrielle confirmed. And when you walk through those doors in your emerald dress, with your hair perfect and your makeup glowing and your head held high, every single person in that room is going to see what I see. A queen. The week before the party was the hardest. Imani continued working her cleaning shifts, but now there was a strange tension in the air. She would catch Trevor Hayes watching her sometimes, and there was something in his eyes she couldn't identify. Concern? Curiosity? She didn't know. She still cleaned the executive suite, still emptied trash bins and mopped floors. But now, instead of feeling diminished by the work, she felt determined. This was temporary. This wasn't who she was. This was what she did to survive. There was a difference. On Friday evening, the night before the party, all the women gathered at Gabrielle's boutique for a final preparation meeting. The dress hung on a mannequin, perfect and waiting. Simone had organized all her makeup. Nicole had her styling tools ready. Tomorrow at noon, Gabrielle said, looking at each woman in turn. Imani, you come here. We'll do hair and makeup together. Nicole and Simone have blocked off the entire afternoon. No rushing, no stress. We're going to take our time and do this right. What about transportation? Destiny asked. The party starts at 6 and it's across town. Already handled, Gabrielle replied with a mysterious smile. My brother has a car service. He's sending a driver. You'll arrive in style. This is too much, Imani protested, though her voice lacked conviction. I can't let you all do this much for me. Yes, you can, all three women said in unison. We're not doing this for you, Simone clarified. We're doing this with you. There's a difference. You're not a charity case, Imani. You're our friend. And friends show up for each other. I haven't been much of a friend lately, Imani said quietly. I disappeared after my business failed. I was too ashamed to reach out. You had nothing to be ashamed of, Nicole said firmly. Loss happens. Life gets hard. Real friends understand that. And we're still here, aren't we? Imani looked around at these women who had refused to let her fade into invisibility. She felt overwhelmed by their kindness, by their unwavering support, by their determination to help her reclaim herself. Thank you, she whispered. All of you. I don't know how I'll ever repay this. You don't repay love, Gabrielle said simply. You pay it forward. Someday when you're back on your feet, when you've rebuilt your life, you'll help someone else who's struggling. That's how this works. That's how we lift each other up. That night, Imani lay in bed, unable to sleep. Tomorrow was the day. Tomorrow she would put on that beautiful dress and walk back into a world she thought she'd left behind forever. She was terrified. She was excited. She was hopeful. She thought about her journey. About the woman she used to be, confident and successful. About the devastation of loss and the slow, painful climb back to dignity. About her daughter who had never stopped believing in her. About her friends who had shown up when she needed them most. Tomorrow wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about proving Vanessa wrong or showing off. Tomorrow was about something much more important. Tomorrow was about remembering that she was still standing. That she still mattered. That she was still here. And that was everything. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear. Imani woke early, her stomach churning with nerves. Destiny was already up, making breakfast and humming happily. Big day, Destiny said, sliding a plate of scrambled eggs across the table. How are you feeling? Terrified, Imani admitted. But also ready. Is that possible? To be both at the same time? I think that's exactly what courage is, Destiny replied wisely. Being scared but doing it anyway. They ate breakfast together, quiet and calm. At 11:30 they left for Gabrielle's boutique. Destiny wore a beautiful royal blue dress that Gabrielle had insisted on giving her. You're part of this too, Gabrielle had said. You should look just as stunning. When they arrived, the boutique had been transformed into a styling studio. Nicole had set up her hair station in one corner. Simone had her makeup arranged like a professional artist's studio. The emerald dress hung in its place of honor. Ready to become a queen? Gabrielle asked with a warm smile. As ready as I'll ever be, Imani replied. Nicole worked on her hair first, taking her time with each section, creating soft, bouncy curls that cascaded down Imani's back and over her shoulders. She pinned some sections up, leaving others down, creating a style that was elegant but not overly formal. You look like you stepped out of a magazine, Destiny breathed, watching the transformation. Next came Simone with makeup. She worked with a light touch, enhancing rather than covering. A touch of foundation to even skin tone. Gold and brown eyeshadow to make Imani's dark eyes pop. Perfect winged eyeliner. Subtle contouring. A deep berry lipstick that complemented the dress perfectly. Open your eyes, Simone said when she was finished. Imani looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself. She looked polished, sophisticated, absolutely beautiful. But more importantly, she looked like herself. Not a costume or a mask, but the woman she had been before loss tried to erase her. Oh my God, she whispered, tears threatening to ruin Simone's careful work. Don't you dare cry yet, Simone warned with a laugh. We'll touch up later if needed. Finally, it was time for the dress. Gabrielle helped Imani into the emerald gown, zipping it up carefully. The fabric hugged her curves perfectly, the color making her skin glow. She stepped into elegant silver heels that added just the right height. When she turned to face the mirrors, all four women gasped. You look like royalty, Gabrielle said, her voice thick with emotion. Mom, Destiny whispered, tears streaming down her face. You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Imani stared at her reflection. The woman looking back was confident, strong, radiant. She was the old Imani and the new Imani combined. Someone who had suffered and survived and was still standing. I can do this, she said softly. You absolutely can, all three women agreed. At 5:30 the car arrived. It was a sleek black sedan, professional and elegant. The driver, Gabrielle's brother Marcus, stepped out wearing a proper suit. Good evening, ladies, he said with a slight bow. Your chariot awaits. Imani and Destiny climbed into the back seat. Through the window, Imani could see her 3 friends waving, their faces glowing with pride and love. As the car pulled away, reality hit her. This was happening. In less than 30 minutes she would walk into that party. She would face Vanessa and her cruel friends. She would enter a world that had rejected her. Second thoughts? Destiny asked, reading her mother's expression. 1,000 of them, Imani admitted. But I'm not turning back. Good, Destiny said, squeezing her hand. Because you look amazing and I want to see their faces when you walk in. The drive across town seemed both endless and too short. Imani watched the city pass by, her mind racing. What would she say when people asked what she'd been doing? How would she handle Vanessa's inevitable cruelty? What if she froze and couldn't speak? Mom, Destiny said gently. Stop overthinking. Just be yourself. That's all you need to do. The car pulled up to the venue, a beautiful estate with gardens and lights strung through the trees. Expensive cars lined the driveway. Women in designer dresses and men in tailored suits were walking toward the entrance. This was high society at its finest. We're here, the driver announced. Imani took a deep breath. Destiny squeezed her hand one more time. You've got this, her daughter whispered. They stepped out of the car. Immediately heads turned. Imani held her head high, remembering Gabrielle's words. She was a queen. She belonged here just as much as anyone else. She and Destiny walked toward the entrance, arm in arm. The setting sun cast everything in golden light, but the real light seemed to be coming from Imani herself. She glowed with quiet dignity. As they entered the venue, the massive ballroom opened before them. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Tables were draped in white cloth with elaborate floral centerpieces. A string quartet played soft music in one corner. Hundreds of guests mingled, drinking champagne and laughing. And then, as if choreographed, the room went silent. Every head turned toward the entrance. Every eye landed on Imani. For a moment she froze, panic rising in her chest. But then she felt Destiny's hand in hers, felt the strength of the dress Gabrielle had chosen, remembered the hours Nicole and Simone had spent making her beautiful. She took a step forward. Then another. And another. Across the room, Vanessa Sterling Hayes stood with her friends, her champagne glass halfway to her lips. Her face had gone pale. This wasn't the cleaning lady she had mocked. This was a woman who commanded attention, who moved with grace and confidence, who looked like she belonged in this ballroom more than Vanessa herself did. And standing near the bar, Trevor Hayes watched Imani's entrance with something like awe in his eyes. This was the woman who cleaned his office? This was the woman his wife had treated as invisible? Imani walked further into the room, her eyes straight ahead, her posture perfect. People parted to let her pass, still staring. She found an empty table toward the side and sat down gracefully, Destiny beside her. Only then did the room resume its normal volume. But Imani could feel the whispers, the curious glances, the shocked expressions. She had done it. She had walked into that room with her head held high. She had shown them all that she was not invisible. That she was not less than. That she mattered. A waiter appeared with champagne. Imani accepted a glass with a quiet thank you. You did it, Mom, Destiny whispered, her eyes shining with pride. We did it, Imani corrected. All of us together. And as she sat in that beautiful ballroom, wearing her emerald dress, surrounded by people who had once made her feel small, Imani Robinson felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years. She felt seen. If you've made it this far, I need you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button right now. Because what happens next at this party will blow your mind. The CEO's wife thought she had won, but she had no idea who she was really dealing with. Don't miss the next chapter. Subscribe and let me know in the comments what you think Vanessa will do when she realizes Imani isn't the joke she thought she was. For the first 20 minutes, Imani and Destiny sat at their table, observing the room. Vanessa was surrounded by her friends, whispering urgently and casting glances toward Imani. Trevor was speaking with a group of businessmen, but his eyes kept drifting toward the table where Imani sat. Other guests were clearly curious. Who was this striking woman? She wasn't part of their usual social circle, yet she carried herself with such natural elegance that she must be someone important. Destiny leaned close to her mother. Everyone's staring. Let them stare, Imani replied calmly. I'm not here to hide. A few minutes later, the MC announced that dinner would be served soon and asked guests to find their assigned seats. Imani looked at her invitation, which listed table 17. She and Destiny made their way through the room, passing clusters of wealthy guests. At table 17, They discovered they were seated with several older couples and one single gentleman who looked to be in his 60s. As Imani took her seat, the man looked up and his eyes widened with recognition. "Imani Robinson?" he said, his voice warm with surprise. "Is that really you?" Imani studied his face, searching her memory. Then it clicked. "Mr. Patterson? Thomas Patterson?" "The very same," he said, standing to shake her hand. "My goodness, it's been years. What are you doing here? Don't tell me you're planning this event? Because if you are, I want to hire you immediately for my company's anniversary party." Imani felt her cheeks warm. "No, I'm just a guest tonight." "Well, that's our loss," Mr. Patterson replied. "Everyone, this is Imani Robinson. She planned my daughter Rebecca's wedding 5 years ago. It was the most beautiful, flawlessly executed event I've ever attended. Rebecca still talks about how perfect everything was." The other people at the table looked at Imani with new interest. One woman, wearing an expensive red dress, leaned forward. "You're an event planner?" she asked. "I've been looking for someone good. My daughter is getting married next spring." "I used to be," Imani said carefully. "I'm not currently in that business." "Why not?" Mr. Patterson asked. "You were incredibly talented. Best in the city, in my opinion." Before Imani could answer, another voice joined the conversation. An older woman who had just arrived at the table. "Timeless Events, right?" the woman said, sitting down. "I remember that company. You did my sister's retirement party. It was wonderful. What happened to your business?" Imani took a breath, making a choice. She could deflect, make excuses, hide the truth. Or she could be honest. "My husband died suddenly 3 years ago," she said quietly but clearly. "He left behind debts I didn't know about. I lost the business paying them off. I've been working other jobs since then, raising my daughter, rebuilding our lives." The table went silent. But it wasn't the uncomfortable silence of pity. It was the respectful silence of people recognizing real struggle and real strength. "I'm so sorry," the woman in red said sincerely. "That must have been incredibly difficult." "It was," Imani admitted. "But we survived. That's what matters." Mr. Patterson was watching her with something like admiration. "And you're still standing. Still here. That takes remarkable courage." "Or remarkable stubbornness," Imani replied with a small smile. The conversation at the table shifted then, becoming warmer and more genuine. These people weren't part of Vanessa's cruel inner circle. They were business leaders and professionals who recognized talent and respected resilience. As dinner was served, Mr. Patterson continued asking Imani questions about her work. What kind of events had she specialized in? What made an event truly memorable? If she were to start over, what would she do differently? Imani found herself really talking about her passion for event planning for the first time in years. She described the joy of creating perfect moments for people. The satisfaction of seeing all the details come together. The relationships she had built with vendors and clients. "You should be doing this again," Mr. Patterson said firmly. "The world needs people who genuinely care about their work. That's rare." "It takes capital to start a business," Imani replied. "And I don't have that anymore." "What if someone invested in you?" he asked. "What if you had backing from someone who believed in your talent?" Imani looked at him, surprised. "Mr. Patterson, I couldn't ask." "You're not asking," he interrupted gently. "I'm offering. Or at least I'm thinking out loud. Let me give you my card. Think about it. If you decide you want to try again, call me. We'll talk about possibilities." He pulled a business card from his pocket and handed it to her. Imani looked at it, her hands trembling slightly. Thomas Patterson, CEO of Patterson Industries. This wasn't a small offer. This was a legitimate opportunity. "Thank you," she whispered. Across the room, Vanessa had noticed the animated conversation at table 17. She whispered something to one of her friends, who looked over and frowned. This wasn't how tonight was supposed to go. Imani was supposed to look out of place, uncomfortable, pitiful. Instead, she was holding court at her table, commanding attention and respect. Vanessa stood up, her decision made. She would go over there and remind everyone exactly who Imani really was. The cleaning lady. The help. Someone who didn't belong in this ballroom. She crossed the room, her friends following behind her like a pack of followers. She approached table 17 just as dessert was being served. "Imani," she said, her voice loud enough to carry. "What a surprise to see you here. I wasn't sure you'd actually come." The table went quiet. Imani looked up at Vanessa, her expression calm. "Thank you for the invitation, Mrs. Hayes," she said politely. "It was very kind of you." Vanessa's smile was sharp. "Well, I believe in inclusivity. Everyone deserves a chance to see how the other half lives, don't you think? Even people who work for us. The implication was clear. The people at the table looked confused. Mr. Patterson frowned. Work for you? He repeated. What do you mean? Oh, did Imani not mention? Vanessa said sweetly. She's one of our cleaning staff. She does such good work on the executive floors. Very thorough. The words hung in the air. Vanessa waited for the shock, the awkwardness, the moment when everyone realized that Imani didn't actually belong at this party. But Mr. Patterson surprised everyone. He stood up, his face serious. Let me make sure I understand you correctly, Mrs. Hayes, he said, his voice cool. You invited this woman to your party specifically because she works as a cleaner at your husband's company? And you're now announcing that fact to everyone within earshot? Why? Vanessa faltered. I was just clarifying. No, Mr. Patterson interrupted. You were attempting to humiliate her. To remind her and everyone else of her current circumstances. To put her in what you consider her proper place. Vanessa's face flushed. That's not. I've known many wealthy people in my life, Mr. Patterson continued, and I've learned that true class has nothing to do with money or status. It's about how you treat people. Especially people who can't do anything for you. He gestured toward Imani. This woman lost everything and kept going. She raised her daughter alone. She took whatever work she could find to survive. That's strength and dignity. He turned to Vanessa. You, on the other hand, just tried to mock someone for working hard to support her family. That's not strength. That's cruelty. And it tells me everything I need to know about your character. Other people from nearby tables had turned to watch the confrontation. Vanessa's friends looked uncomfortable. Even the string quartet had stopped playing. I think perhaps you should return to your table, Mrs. Hayes, Mr. Patterson said firmly, and think about what it means to be truly wealthy. Because from where I'm standing, Ms. Robinson here is far richer than you'll ever be. Vanessa's face had gone from red to white. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. She turned and walked quickly back to her table, her friends scurrying after her. The room remained silent for a moment. Then slowly applause began. It started with the woman in red at Imani's table, then spread to the nearby tables, then throughout the entire ballroom. People were applauding not for Vanessa's humiliation, but for the truth that had just been spoken. Imani sat there, tears streaming down her face. Destiny held her hand tightly. You did it, Mom, Destiny whispered. You showed them. No, Imani said quietly, looking at Mr. Patterson, who had sat back down. He did. And all I had to do was be honest about who I am. Mr. Patterson smiled at her. That's the hardest thing in the world. And the most important. Now, shall we enjoy our dessert? As the party resumed, Imani felt something shift inside her. She had come here tonight prepared to endure Vanessa's cruelty. But instead she had found allies. People who saw past her circumstances to her character. People who valued honesty and strength over status and wealth. And across the room, Trevor Hayes had watched the entire exchange. He had seen his wife's attempt at humiliation backfire. He had seen Imani's quiet dignity in the face of cruelty. And he had seen Mr. Patterson, one of the most respected businessmen in the city, defend her publicly. Trevor made a decision in that moment. A decision that would change everything. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur of conversation and connection. People from other tables approached Imani, introducing themselves, asking about her event planning background, expressing sympathy for her loss and admiration for her resilience. What had started as Vanessa's cruel joke had transformed into something entirely different. Destiny watched it all with pride and wonder. Her mother was glowing, not from the makeup or the dress, but from within. She was talking with confidence, laughing genuinely, engaging with people as an equal. This was the mother Destiny had always known was there, buried beneath years of survival mode. When the vow renewal ceremony began, Imani and Destiny watched respectfully. Vanessa and Trevor stood at the front of the ballroom, renewing the vows they had spoken years ago. But Imani noticed something. While Vanessa spoke her vows with theatrical emotion, her eyes scanning the crowd to make sure everyone was watching, Trevor's words were quiet and seemed almost hollow. His eyes were distant. After the ceremony, as people mingled and danced, Trevor finally approached Imani's table. Mr. Patterson had stepped away to speak with other guests, giving them a moment of relative privacy. Ms. Robinson, Trevor said formally, may I have a word with you? In private? Imani glanced at Destiny, who nodded encouragingly. She stood and followed Trevor to a quiet corner of the garden, away from the party. First, Trevor began, his voice heavy with sincerity, I want to apologize. For my wife's behavior. For the invitation that was clearly meant as a joke. For the attempt tonight to humiliate you. None of that was acceptable. You're not responsible for your wife's actions, Imani replied gently. In a way I am, Trevor said. I've allowed her to become someone cruel. I've looked the other way when she's been unkind to staff. I've prioritized business and success over character and compassion. Tonight made me see that clearly. He paused, looking out at the garden. I've been watching you for the past few weeks. Since I found out about the invitation. I saw how hard you work, how you treat everyone with respect, how you maintain your dignity despite difficult circumstances. And then tonight, watching you handle Vanessa's cruelty with grace, listening to Mr. Patterson defend you, seeing how people responded to your honesty, I realized something. What? Imani asked quietly. That you're exactly the kind of person I want working with my company, Trevor said, turning to face her fully. Not cleaning floors. Leading people. Imani's breath caught. Mr. Hayes, I don't understand. We're launching a new division, Trevor explained. Corporate events and client experiences. I've been looking for someone to head it up. Someone with creativity, integrity, and genuine passion for creating meaningful experiences. Someone who understands what it means to work hard and overcome obstacles. He pulled out a folder from inside his jacket. This is a formal offer. Salary, benefits, creative control. You'd be reporting directly to me. You'd have a team, a budget, and the opportunity to rebuild what you lost. Not as a favor. Not as charity. But because you're the best person for the job. Imani stared at the folder, her mind racing. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. Mr. Hayes, she began, her voice shaking. I appreciate this, but I can't accept charity. I won't be your way of making up for your wife's cruelty. This isn't charity, Trevor said firmly. And it's not about Vanessa. This is business. I've seen your work history. I've talked to people like Mr. Patterson who worked with you before. I've watched how you conduct yourself. You're talented, professional, and exactly what this division needs. The fact that you're currently working as a cleaner doesn't change any of that. It just means you've been underutilized. He held out the folder. At least look at it. Think about it. You don't have to give me an answer tonight. But please don't say no because of pride. Sometimes accepting an opportunity is the bravest thing we can do. Imani took the folder with trembling hands. She opened it and scanned the first page. The salary listed made her eyes widen. It was 3 times what she made cleaning. The benefits included full health insurance, retirement contributions, and education support for dependents. For Destiny. This is too much, she whispered. It's market rate for an executive position, Trevor corrected. Actually, it's slightly below market. But there's room for growth. If you succeed, and I believe you will, you'll earn much more. Why are you doing this? Imani asked, looking up at him. Really? Trevor was quiet for a moment. Because tonight I saw clearly what I've been trying not to see for years. That success without character is empty. That surrounding yourself with people who only care about status and wealth leads to a hollow life. That the most interesting, worthy people are often the ones we overlook because we're too focused on the wrong things. He met her eyes. You remind me of why I started my company in the first place. To build something meaningful. To help people. To create value beyond just profit. Somewhere along the way I lost sight of that. Hiring you would be a step toward finding it again. Imani felt tears threatening again. I need to think about it. Talk to my daughter. Process everything that's happened tonight. Of course, Trevor agreed. Take your time. My direct number is in the folder. Call me when you've decided. They walked back to the party together. Destiny saw her mother's face and immediately knew something significant had happened. What is it? She asked as soon as Imani sat down. I'll tell you everything in the car, Imani promised. But Destiny, I think our lives might be about to change. As the party continued into the evening, Vanessa remained conspicuously distant. Her friends had quietly abandoned her, embarrassed by the scene earlier. She stood alone at the bar, drinking wine and watching her husband talk with other guests. She saw how people approached him, congratulating him on various business successes, while nobody approached her. She saw Imani sitting at table 17, surrounded by people who genuinely seemed to enjoy her company. She saw Mr. Patterson, one of the most influential businessmen in the city, treating Imani like an equal, like a friend. And she realized, perhaps for the first time, that cruelty had a price. That tonight, trying to humiliate the cleaning lady, she had instead revealed her own small, petty character to everyone who mattered. Around 10, Imani and Destiny decided to leave. They had done what they came to do. Imani had faced her fear, maintained her dignity, and shown everyone including herself that she was still standing. As they walked toward the exit, Mr. Patterson caught up with them. "Leaving already?" he asked. "It's been a long day," Imani replied with a tired smile. "A wonderful day but long." "I meant what I said earlier," Mr. Patterson told her. "About investing in your business if you want to start again. I believe in backing talented people. And you, my dear, are exceptionally talented." He glanced at the folder Imani was carrying. "Though I suspect Trevor Hayes might have made you an offer already? You know about that?" Imani asked, surprised. Mr. Patterson chuckled. "Trevor and I had a conversation after the ceremony. He asked my opinion on someone for his new division. When he described who he had in mind, I knew immediately he meant you. I told him it was an excellent choice." "You recommended me?" Imani said, touched. "I told him the truth," Mr. Patterson corrected. "That you're one of the best event planners I've ever worked with. That you have integrity and creativity and work ethic. The rest was his decision." He handed Imani another card. "Whether you take Trevor's offer or decide to start your own business again, please stay in touch. The world needs more people like you. People who remember that success is measured not by what you accumulate, but by how you treat people along the way." Imani hugged him, surprising them both. "Thank you. For everything tonight. For standing up for me. For believing in me." "My pleasure," he said warmly. "Now go home. Get some rest. You have big decisions to make." In the car on the way home, Imani told Destiny everything. About Trevor's offer, the salary, the position, the opportunity. Destiny listened, her eyes growing wider with each detail. "Mom, this is amazing," she said when Imani finished. "You have to take it." "It's not that simple," Imani replied. "Working for Trevor means working in the same company as Vanessa. Seeing her, dealing with her ongoing hostility. So," Destiny challenged, "she doesn't get to control your life. She tried to humiliate you tonight and it backfired completely. You proved you're better than her cruelty. Don't let her win by making you turn down this opportunity." "You sound very wise for 15, Imani said with a small smile. "I learned from the best," Destiny replied, squeezing her mother's hand. When they got home, Imani carefully hung the emerald dress in her closet. She removed her makeup, unpinned her hair, changed into comfortable clothes. But even in her pajamas she felt different. Stronger. More like herself than she had in years. She pulled out Trevor's folder and read through the entire offer carefully. The position was real. The salary was real. The opportunity was real. This wasn't a dream or a charity handout. This was a genuine professional offer based on her skills and experience. She thought about Mr. Patterson's words. About surrounding yourself with people who care about character. About measuring success by how you treat people. About the fact that talent and hard work should be recognized and rewarded. And she thought about Gabrielle, Simone, and Nicole. About how they had shown up for her without hesitation. About how accepting their help hadn't made her weak, it had made her stronger. About how allowing people to invest in her was a gift, not a burden. Maybe it was time to stop seeing herself as someone who had failed. Maybe it was time to start seeing herself as someone who had survived, who had kept going, who was ready for a second chance. Destiny appeared in the doorway. "So what are you going to do?" Imani looked at her daughter, at the hope and pride in her eyes. She looked at the folder in her hands, at the opportunity that had somehow found her in the darkest moment. "I'm going to call him on Monday," she said decisively. "And I'm going to accept." Destiny let out a whoop of joy and threw her arms around her mother. They held each other, both crying happy tears. "I'm so proud of you, Mom," Destiny whispered. "I'm proud of us," Imani corrected. "We did this together. All of us. And we're going to keep doing it together." That night, Imani slept better than she had in 3 years. She dreamed of offices and events and possibilities. She dreamed of the future not as something to survive, but as something to build. And in her dream, she was wearing her emerald dress, standing tall, moving forward with her head held high. Monday morning arrived with nervous excitement. Imani woke early, her stomach fluttering with anticipation and fear. She had made her decision. Now she just had to follow through. She waited until 9, a reasonable hour for business calls, then dialed the number on Trevor's card. He answered on the second ring. "Trevor Hayes." "Mr. Hayes, this is Imani Robinson. I've reviewed your offer." "And?" His voice was cautious, hopeful. "I'd like to accept. If the position is still available." She could hear the smile in his voice. "It absolutely is. Can you come by my office today?" We'll work out the details, get you set up, introduce you to your team. Today. Imani repeated, surprised. No time like the present, Trevor replied. Unless you need more time? Imani thought about her cleaning shift scheduled for tonight. About the uniform hanging in her closet. About the past 3 years of invisible work. Today is perfect, she said firmly. What time? 2 o'clock. Trevor suggested. That gives you time to prepare and me time to brief the team. After they hung up, Imani sat for a moment, letting it sink in. This was really happening. In a few hours she would walk back into Hayes Corporate Tower, not as a cleaner but as an executive. She called Gabriel immediately. He offered you the job, didn't he? Gabriel said before Imani could even speak. I saw the way Trevor Hayes was looking at you on Saturday. Tell me everything. Imani explained the position, the salary, the meeting this afternoon. Gabriel listened, then let out a delighted laugh. I'm closing the boutique for lunch. We're going shopping. You need work clothes and I know exactly where to find them. Gabriel, I can't afford. Stop, Gabriel interrupted gently. You're about to start a job with a real salary. You can pay me back over time if you insist. But today you're getting professional clothes that make you feel as confident as you looked on Saturday. End of discussion. 2 hours later, Imani stood in a high-end department store, trying on blazers and dress pants and elegant blouses. Gabriel had a sharp eye, selecting pieces that were professional but still showed Imani's personality. A burgundy blazer with matching pants. A cream blouse. Black heels that were comfortable enough for all-day wear. You look like the executive you are, Gabriel said with satisfaction. At 1:45, Imani walked through the main entrance of Hayes Corporate Tower for what felt like the first time, even though she had entered this building hundreds of times before through the service entrance. She wore her new burgundy suit, her hair styled the way Nicole had shown her, subtle makeup enhancing her features. The security guard at the front desk did a double take. Ms. Robinson? He said, confused. He had seen her many times in her cleaning uniform. Good afternoon, James, Imani said with a warm smile. You look different, he said, still processing. I am different, Imani replied. Or maybe I'm just finally looking like myself again. She took the elevator to the executive floor, her heart pounding. The doors opened and Patricia, Trevor's assistant, was waiting. Ms. Robinson, Patricia said warmly. Welcome. Mr. Hayes is ready for you. Trevor's office was exactly as Imani remembered, except now she was entering through the front door, not carrying cleaning supplies. Trevor stood as she entered, extending his hand. Imani, you look ready to take on the world. I hope so, she replied, shaking his hand firmly. They spent the next hour going over details. The position was Director of Corporate Events and Client Experience. She would have a team of 4 to start, with room to grow. Her office would be on the 38th floor with a view of the city. She would begin immediately, with her first major project being the company's annual Client Appreciation Gala in 8 weeks. That's a tight timeline, Imani said, her mind already working through possibilities. I know, Trevor agreed. But if anyone can pull it off, you can. I've seen your work. I've heard stories from people like Mr. Patterson. You thrive under pressure. They walked down to the 38th floor together. Trevor had assembled the team that would be working under Imani's direction. 4 young professionals, all eager and talented, all curious about their new director. Everyone, Trevor said, getting their attention. This is Imani Robinson, your new director. She brings years of experience in high-end event planning, and I expect you all to learn from her expertise. Imani, these are your team members. Tasha Johnson handles logistics. Marcus Chin manages vendor relationships. Sophia Martinez is our creative lead. And Jonathan Williams coordinates client communications. The team greeted Imani with polite smiles, though she could see the questions in their eyes. Who was this woman? Where had she come from? Why had Trevor hired someone from outside the company for such an important position? I know you probably have questions, Imani said, addressing the elephant in the room. About who I am and why I'm here. The truth is, I used to run my own event planning company. Life happened, I lost the business, and I've spent the past 3 years working other jobs. Mr. Hayes has given me a second chance to do what I love. I hope to earn your trust and respect through my work. And I hope to learn from each of you as well. Her honesty seemed to relax the team. Tasha, a young woman with bright eyes and an eager smile, spoke first. We're glad to have you. Our last director was more focused on politics than actual events. We're hoping for someone who actually cares about the work. I care, Imani assured them. Probably too much. I tend to obsess over details and push for perfection. But I also believe in collaboration and giving credit where it's due. We're going to do great things together. She spent the rest of the afternoon meeting with each team member individually, learning about their strengths, hearing their ideas, understanding the challenges they'd faced. By 5 o'clock, she had pages of notes and a clear vision for how to approach the upcoming gala. As she packed up to leave, Trevor stopped by her new office. "How was your first day?" he asked. "Overwhelming. Exciting. Terrifying. Perfect," Imani replied with a genuine smile. "That's exactly how it should feel," Trevor said. "Listen, I wanted to mention something. Vanessa and I are separating." Imani looked up, surprised. "Mr. Hayes, I hope that's not because of—" "It's not because of you," Trevor interrupted gently. "It's because of me. Because I finally saw clearly what my marriage had become. Saturday night was just the final confirmation of what I'd been avoiding for years. Vanessa and I have been living separate lives for a long time. It's time to make that official." "I'm sorry," Imani said sincerely. "Don't be," Trevor replied. "Sometimes endings are necessary for new beginnings. For both of us." He left, and Imani stood alone in her new office looking out at the city below. From this height, everything looked different. Smaller. More manageable. Full of possibility. Her phone buzzed with a text from Destiny. "How did it go?" Imani smiled and typed back. "It went perfectly. I'll tell you everything tonight." As she rode the elevator down, she passed the service elevator where she used to enter the building. She thought about the woman she had been just a few days ago. Invisible. Tired. Resigned to a life that felt too small. That woman was still part of her. The strength she had developed, the resilience she had built, the lessons she had learned. But now she was adding new layers. Confidence. Hope. Purpose. When Imani walked out of Hayes Corporate Tower that evening, she held her head high. She was no longer the cleaning lady. She was no longer defined by her loss or her circumstances. She was Imani Robinson, Director of Corporate Events. She was a mother. A survivor. A woman who had been knocked down and had gotten back up. A woman who had accepted help with grace and was now ready to pay that gift forward. And she was just getting started. Over the next few weeks, Imani threw herself into work. The annual Client Appreciation Gala became her focus. She worked long hours, but unlike her cleaning shifts, these hours energized her. She was doing what she loved again. Her team responded to her leadership style. She was demanding but fair, creative but practical, willing to listen but clear in her vision. They produced ideas and she refined them. Together they created something special. Gabrielle provided linens and decor at cost, insisting it was an investment in their renewed friendship. Simone and Nicole offered their services for any clients who needed hair and makeup. Mr. Patterson agreed to attend the gala as a special guest, lending his influence to the event. Destiny watched her mother bloom, and it filled her with pride. For so long she had seen her mother survive. Now she was watching her mother thrive. One evening, about 6 weeks into her new position, Imani was working late when Trevor stopped by her office. "You're here past 8 again," he observed. "You know you don't have to prove yourself anymore, right? You've already exceeded every expectation." "I'm not proving anything," Imani replied, looking up from her laptop. "I'm just enjoying what I'm doing. For the first time in 3 years, I actually love my work." Trevor smiled. "That's what I was hoping to hear. Listen, I wanted to talk to you about something. The gala is going to be a huge success. I can already tell. And I think you're ready for something bigger." "Bigger than a 500-person gala for our top clients?" Imani asked. "Much bigger," Trevor confirmed. "I've been thinking about a new venture. A separate company focused on giving second chances to talented people who've fallen on hard times. People like you. We'd help them rebuild careers, start businesses, get back on their feet. And I want you to be my partner in it." Imani stared at him, stunned. "Your partner?" "Equal partner," Trevor clarified. 50-50 ownership. You'd handle operations and creative direction. I'd handle funding and business development. We'd build something meaningful together. Something that changes lives. "Trevor, I just started this job 6 weeks ago," Imani protested. "I'm not ready for—" "You're more ready than you think," Trevor interrupted. "You've lived the struggle. You know what it takes to rebuild from nothing. You understand the importance of giving people dignity, not just charity. That's exactly what this venture needs." He pulled out another folder. "No pressure. Think about it. Talk to Destiny. Talk to your friends. But Imani, this is a chance to do something really special. To turn your pain into purpose." Imani took the folder, her mind reeling. Why me? She asked quietly. You could partner with anyone. Because you're not just talented, Trevor said. You're kind. You're genuine. You understand what it means to lose everything and keep going. Those qualities are rare. And they're exactly what this project needs. After he left, Imani sat in her office for a long time, thinking. 6 weeks ago she had been cleaning these floors. Now she was being offered a partnership in a new venture. The transformation felt surreal. But as she thought about it more, she realized it wasn't surreal at all. It was just life coming full circle. She had lost everything, yes. But she had also gained perspective, strength, empathy. She knew what it felt like to be invisible, to be dismissed, to be underestimated. And now she had a chance to use that knowledge to help others. She called Destiny. Mom? Everything okay? Everything's more than okay, Imani replied. And I need your advice. The Hayes Corporation annual Client Appreciation Gala was spectacular. Imani had poured everything she had learned over the years into creating an unforgettable evening. The theme was Rising Above, a subtle nod to her own journey that Trevor had approved enthusiastically. The venue was transformed into an elegant space filled with light and possibility. Instead of the expected formality, Imani had created intimate spaces where clients could connect genuinely. Round tables instead of long formal ones. Comfortable seating areas. Interactive displays showcasing Hayes Corporation's work. A menu focused on comfort food elevated to fine dining. But the heart of the event was the program. Instead of boring speeches about corporate achievements, Imani had organized a series of short presentations from employees at all levels, sharing stories about what Hayes Corporation meant to them. A junior analyst talked about how her first job here had changed her life. A warehouse supervisor discussed the scholarship program that had helped his son go to college. A receptionist shared how the company's family leave policy had allowed her to care for her sick mother. The clients were moved. These weren't corporate success stories. These were human stories. And they reminded everyone in the room that business at its best was about people. Trevor gave a brief speech at the end, thanking Imani by name and acknowledging that she had shown him what truly meaningful success looked like. 6 months ago, he said, looking out at the gathered guests, I thought I understood what made a company great. Revenue, market share, industry awards. But I was wrong. What makes a company great is how it treats people. Not just clients but employees. Not just executives but everyone who contributes to our success. That's the standard I want Hayes Corporation to meet going forward. The room erupted in applause. And in the back, watching with pride, stood Gabrielle, Simone, Nicole, Destiny, and Mr. Patterson. They had all come to support Imani, to witness her triumph. After the event, as guests were leaving, dozens of people approached Imani to congratulate her. Not just on the event but on her story. Trevor had quietly shared the outline of her journey with several key clients, and word had spread. She wasn't just an event planner. She was a survivor. An inspiration. You should be very proud, Mr. Patterson told her as he was leaving. This was one of the finest corporate events I've ever attended. And I've attended hundreds. Thank you, Imani replied. And thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. That's what friends do, he said warmly. Now, about that other matter. Have you made a decision about Trevor's partnership offer? Imani had been thinking about it constantly for the past 2 weeks. The opportunity to create something new, something meaningful, something that could help people the way she had been helped. It scared her. It excited her. It felt right. I'm going to accept, she said, with one condition. That we include a mentorship component. Not just job placement or business funding but ongoing support. Because the hardest part isn't getting back on your feet. It's staying there when obstacles come up. Mr. Patterson smiled. That's brilliant. And if you need additional investors for this venture, count me in. After the event, Imani and Destiny went home together. They were both exhausted but exhilarated. They changed into comfortable clothes, made tea, and sat on their small couch. Mom, that was incredible, Destiny said. Every single person there was talking about how amazing it was. It was a team effort, Imani replied. Tasha, Marcus, Sophia, Jonathan, they all worked so hard. But you led them, Destiny pointed out. You created the vision. You made it happen. Imani looked at her daughter, this amazing young woman who had never stopped believing in her. I couldn't have done any of this without you, you know? You kept me going when I wanted to give up. You reminded me who I was when I had forgotten. You called Gabrielle and set everything in motion. You're my hero, Destiny. Destiny's eyes filled with tears. You're mine too, Mom. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, sipping their tea. Finally, Imani spoke. Trevor wants me to be his partner in a new venture. A company that helps people rebuild after setbacks. Job training, business funding, mentorship. Everything I wish I'd had 3 years ago. Are you going to do it? Destiny asked. I think so, Imani said slowly. It's risky. It means leaving the security of my current position. But it feels right. Like this is what everything has been building toward. The loss, the struggle, the climb back. Maybe it was all preparing me for this. Then you should definitely do it, Destiny said firmly. Because you're going to change lives, Mom. Just like Gabrielle, Simone, Nicole, Mr. Patterson, and Trevor changed yours. Just like you changed mine, Imani added, pulling her daughter close. The next morning, Imani went to Trevor's office and told him she accepted his partnership offer. They spent the next 3 months planning, building, and preparing to launch their new venture. They called it Second Foundations. The name reflected their mission of helping people rebuild their professional lives after setbacks. They secured funding from Mr. Patterson and several other investors. They hired a small staff of passionate people who believed in second chances. And they opened their doors on a bright Monday morning in spring. Their first client was a woman named Jennifer, a single mother who had lost her nursing job due to a false accusation that was later disproved. By the time she was cleared, she had been unemployed for a year and couldn't find anyone willing to hire her. Second Foundations helped Jennifer update her resume, connected her with nursing recruiters who understood her situation, provided interview coaching, and covered her licensing renewal fees. Within a month, Jennifer had a job at a respected hospital. You gave me back my dignity, Jennifer told Imani through tears at their final meeting. You saw me as a person, not just a problem to solve. I know exactly how that feels, Imani replied. And I promise you, we're going to help as many people as we can feel that same way. Over the next 6 months, Second Foundations helped dozens of people. An accountant who had been laid off during the recession and couldn't find work. A teacher who had taken time off to care for aging parents and couldn't get back into the classroom. A software developer who had been incarcerated for a nonviolent offense and couldn't get past background checks. Each person had talent. Each person had value. Each person just needed someone to believe in them and give them a real chance. Imani threw herself into the work with passion. She interviewed every client personally. She listened to their stories. She cried with them over their struggles and celebrated with them over their victories. She remembered what it felt like to be invisible, and she made sure every person who walked through their doors felt seen. Destiny was thriving too. She had been accepted to several colleges and was planning to study business and social work. I want to do what you do, she told her mother. Help people rebuild their lives. You've been doing that your whole life, Imani replied. You helped me rebuild mine. One evening, about 8 months after Second Foundations launched, Imani was working late in their office when her phone rang. It was Vanessa. Imani? This is Vanessa Hayes. I mean Vanessa Sterling. I went back to my maiden name after the divorce. Imani was surprised. Hello, Vanessa. What can I do for you? There was a long pause. I wanted to apologize. For the invitation. For trying to humiliate you. For being cruel. I spent the past year in therapy dealing with a lot of things. And I realize I treated you terribly because I was miserable in my own life and I took it out on people who couldn't fight back. Thank you for the apology, Imani said carefully. I also wanted to ask if you might have room in your program for one more client, Vanessa continued. Me. I've been job searching for 6 months. Turns out when you're known as the bitter ex-wife of a successful CEO, nobody wants to hire you. I have a degree in marketing, but it's been years since I worked. I need help. And I heard what you're doing at Second Foundations. I heard you help people rebuild. Imani sat back in her chair, processing this unexpected turn. The woman who had tried to humiliate her was now asking for help. Part of her wanted to refuse, to let Vanessa experience what it felt like to be rejected. But that wasn't who Imani was. That wasn't what Second Foundation stood for. Come in tomorrow at 10, Imani said. We'll talk about your situation and see how we can help. Really? Vanessa's voice was filled with disbelief. After everything I did? Everyone deserves a second chance, Imani replied. That's what we do here. That's what someone did for me. I'm going to pay it forward. After they hung up, Imani sat for a moment thinking about the journey that had brought her to this point. From success to loss to survival to renewal. From invisible to visible. From defeated to determined. She thought about the cruel invitation that had seemed like the lowest moment. The invitation that had actually been the catalyst for everything that came after. Sometimes she realized the worst things that happen to us lead us to the best things. Not because the pain was good, but because we find strength we didn't know we had. Her phone buzzed with a text from Gabrielle. Drinks with the girls this weekend? We need to celebrate your success. Then Simone, I'm in. Let's do it. Then Nicole, absolutely. We need a proper celebration. Imani smiled, typing back, can't wait. I love you all. These women had shown up for her when she needed them most. They had helped her remember who she was. They had given her the tools to step back into her own life. And now she was paying that gift forward every single day. She pulled out the invitation from that night so long ago. She had kept it, a reminder of where she'd been and how far she'd come. The cream-colored paper was elegant, the script beautiful. But the message behind it, the cruelty and dismissal, that had lost all its power. Because Imani Robinson was no longer the woman who could be diminished by someone else's small-mindedness. She was a partner in a successful venture. She was a mother raising an incredible daughter. She was a friend surrounded by love. She was a woman who had survived and thrived. She was enough. She had always been enough. She just had to remember. Destiny appeared in the doorway of the office. Ready to go home, Mom? Imani stood, gathering her things. Absolutely. Let's go. As they walked out of the office together, Imani looked back one more time. Tomorrow, Vanessa would walk through those doors, broken and seeking help. And Imani would provide it, not because Vanessa deserved it, but because extending grace was always the right choice. Because that's what hope looked like. That's what kindness looked like. That's what love looked like. And that's what second chances were all about. Outside, the city sparkled with possibility. Imani took her daughter's hand, and together they walked toward home, toward the future, toward everything they had built together. The invitation that was meant to destroy her had instead transformed her. And now, she was using that transformation to change lives. One second chance at a time.